Okay, so one question is, how did you stay on your macros while I was away? To be honest, that was quite hard for me when I didn't have Wi-Fi. When I went to Bali with my family, that was the first time I'd been away, and to be honest, I was quite nervous about tracking my macros and being out of my comfort zone. But it was actually easier than I thought, because while I was here, I knew how much food I was meant to be having. So when I was away, I'd log onto Wi-Fi and I could pretty much I'd always preload my menu so that I knew exactly what I was having, and I was pretty good at doing the portion sizes. I also, I can hear myself. I also trained every day without fail, 6 a.m. So if we'd been out the night before, like had a late dinner, and I'd got home at 1 a.m., I still woke up at 6 a.m. and went to the gym. I didn't want to break my schedule or break my diary. Because then I knew that it was only going to be harder later on. So I wanted to get that done out of the way. But in terms of the macros, I bought protein shakes, and I also made sure that every single meal, which is about 7 or 8 meals, had protein in it. And then some meals would have carbs, some meals would have fat. And every single meal had vegetables. So that's the way I did it for Bali. When I went to Spain, that was, to be honest, really, really hard in my body composition, even though I wasn't eating very much. And yes, it is energy in versus energy out, but I felt soft, and it was because I wasn't giving my body enough nutrition, especially protein, for it to look the way I want it to look. So coming home and going back to normal routine, and it just made me realize how important protein is in your lean body composition. That thing comes first, and carbs and fats come after. I've lost 800 grams in less than a week, and I'm eating more food than what I did when I was away. So another thing with the importance of protein, my dad's pretty sick at the moment and he can't really eat much, but what my mum and I have been doing is giving him 3 lots of double servings of protein powder throughout the day. So if that's the only thing he eats that day, that's 180 grams of protein. And the nutritionist came in and said, hey, I've noticed he's not eating his normal food here, but he's going really well. He's responding really well. What have you been doing? I said, well, we've been feeding him 3 lots of 60 grams of protein a day. So if he doesn't eat any other food but that, he's well over his protein intake, and that's what's actually helping his wounds get blood flow and his cells with his cell renewal. Plus, he's not going to be losing any more weight, even though he's bedridden. So not only is it great for body composition, but it's also great for your cells, muscle recovery, muscle maintenance, and then the lucky bit of your lean body tissue. Hi, Ominia. Does anyone have any other questions that you would like to ask? Any other questions? You can ask about anything you want. There's no question that's silly or stupid. I'll just touch base with protein while we're talking about it, and macros. Your protein and your fiber, you've got to hit them first. Your protein is king. Everything else is second to that. So when we get a lot of girls that come in and they want to change their body composition and they're telling us they're not eating much food or they eat really healthy, yeah, that's great. But when we go to actually look at what they're eating, they're so low on their protein intake, and that is by far the most important thing. So I know sometimes you can feel really heavy eating a fair amount of protein, but your body actually needs it, and you can eat up to 700 calories more in protein and not put weight on, just because if your body doesn't need it, it'll get rid of it. and it helps keep you fuller for longer. So for the girls that are like, oh my God, I've got so much protein to eat and I've 60 grams and I'm about to go to bed, we'll just have a double serving of protein before you go to bed. And don't think of it as, oh my God, I'm eating so much food, I'm eating so much food before I go to bed. Think of it as helping you drop fat, because while you're sleeping, while you're not moving much, that 60 grams is going to slowly be released from night to morning. And because you're going to be in deficit, it's actually going to help your body to maintain your lean muscle tissue and then use fat as fuel or get rid of fat. So instead of dropping muscle and fat, you're just going to be dropping fat. That's why it's so important to have such a big meal of protein before you go to bed, because it actually slowly absorbs into your system till the morning. Your body doesn't want to break down fat first. It's really hard for it to do that. Another thing is, it's really important that you do eat before you train. Some of the girls that train first thing in the morning, and you're not used to eating, all you have to do is have a protein shake with an apple, or a protein shake with a banana, or have a Chobani yogurt. Just something before you train. All the girls that we've scanned the beginning and the end of the month, no matter how much training they did, and if they were still hitting the macros in the day, we still saw that they had lost muscle over that month, no matter how much training they were doing. When I got them to eat some protein and carbs before they trained, and then protein and carbs after they trained, the same thing happened. All of them, every single one of them put muscle on and dropped body fat. So it just goes to show it's really important to eat before you train, especially while you're in deficit. Not only that, you're going to feel better because and it does give your metabolism a bit of a kickstart after you've been fasting. Okay, one question is, what do you do to recover from a bad food slip? For example, I ate dumplings tonight and I don't know how to measure macros for that. Should you do more exercise the next day or just get back to the same macros? This one's a hard one. There's a few ways that you can look at it like that. I mean, MyFitnessPal should have dumplings in there. I know I've put dumplings in there before. If you're 10 grams over your fat intake and 10 grams over your carb intake, what you can do is over the next 2 days, take that off those days. So if your normal macro split is, I'm going to say 150 grams of protein, 120 grams of carbs, and then 70 grams of fat, but you went over them today, then for the next 2 days, you'll go 150 grams of protein, 115 grams of carbs, 65 grams of fat. So you take what you went over that day off the next 2 or 3 days, depending on how big your surplus was. Or you can be like, okay, right, I've eaten this amount of food. I'm going to use it as fuel to train hard the next day. Or you can do both. Train really hard the next day, know that you've got enough fuel in the system, and then cut back the next 2 days. If it was like a huge blowout, which everyone does, there's no need to feel bad about it, but just recognize that you've done it and then look at the triggers that happened to try and avoid it happening again. You'd want to take it off over the next 3 or 4 days. You don't want a day that you're just like not eating anything, because you're probably going to binge later and you're going to feel like shit. So if you're 40 grams over your carbs and 30 grams over your fat, you have 7 days before you check in, generally for the girls online. You can take that off the next 4 days so that you're not starving yourself, but you're going to balance out. The worst thing to do is feel bad about it and hate yourself for it. Nobody's perfect. I'm the worst dieter ever. I'd be lying if I said I was perfect. I've done everything. I've not eaten. I've binged eat. I've restricted. I've purged. I've over-exercised. I've fasted. And I've also flexible dieted. And the best thing for me to do was flexible dieting, because it allowed me to eat food in a controlled manner, mostly, you know, there's going to be a day where you're really craving something or you're really tired, and I know that I'm really tired. I was like, I don't give a shit what it is. I just have to eat something, and then I look at my macros and I've ruined it. But then I'm like, okay, I've done that. Then tomorrow I back off over the macros that I went over, for the next 2 days. So it's just kind of understanding and what's going on when you're triggered. I know that when I'm tired, that's when I start to kind of crumble. But don't beat yourself up for it, because you don't actually get anywhere when you just feel really shitty at yourself. I hope that answers your question. And then you go back to the same macros once you've done your deficit, once you've balanced out, I suppose, then you go back to your normal macros. Any other questions? That was actually a good question. Okay, in terms of protein before bed, it can be any protein. All proteins are pretty much the same. Protein powder is about 120 grams of chicken. 60 grams to eat before bed, and it's like 10 o'clock at night, you're not going to go and eat a chicken breast. So it's kind of easier just to have protein powder because it's on there. It's not going to make you feel bloated or full. And for me, I quite like protein powder because it's sweet, and I have a really sweet tooth. So I'll, if depending on what macros I have, I'll have like a scoop of protein powder with a little bit of skim milk and water, and I shake that up, and that for me is, I quite like that. You only need to have the double serving or the extra serving of protein before bed if you haven't hit your protein in the day. One of the other girls in the group, she said, Hattie, I'm waking up at 3 a.m. and I'm starving and I'm going over my macros and like, I just wasn't on my macros this week because I'm eating more because I'm really hungry. I'm like, that's fine. If you're super, super hungry and you've eaten all your macros, just have protein. Okay, so when I talked about before, you can eat up to like 700 calories in protein and you can still keep your weight down. If you're ever hungry and you've outdone your macros and you're just so hungry you can't take it, have a piece of lean chicken breast, have some fish, like white fish, have a protein shake with water. Keep it to the protein, lower fat, don't throw all your other macros out. If at the end of the day you've got 30 grams or 15 grams of fat to eat, and you just don't like this, you just don't know where there's something that's just fat. Some girls say have a coconut oil, but I don't think I could do that. Have some nuts because you're going to hit your fat intake, but you're going to be over in your protein intake, but that's not bad. It's bad when it would be a fat and carb and then you blow those out. That's when it's not ideal. So again, we want to be as consistent as you can when it comes to hitting your macros. The only way to be that consistent is when you pre-plan. You have to pre-plan no matter what diet you're on. If you don't make it yourself, if you don't weigh it, you're never going to be on point. The reason for the macros aren't guidelines. They're there based on where your body is at right now and where we want it to be. That's why everyone's macros are different. When you are 100% on those macros, when you go to do your body fat scan or when you go to do your weekly check-ins, it is a true reading of what your intake is doing for your body plus the training. If you're really inconsistent and you get a bad result, I don't know what to change because you're inconsistent. You don't know what to change. One girl said to me this week, Hattie, I've plateaued. But I'm smashing my workouts, but I've plateaued. I said, you don't know if you've plateaued because you're so inconsistent. You don't know if you've plateaued because you haven't tracked your macros. How do I know what to change? How do you know you've plateaued? If you're smashing your workout, you're probably eating what you've been burning, and that's probably why you haven't moved. If you smashed your workout and you tracked your macros and nothing changed, then we know that you've plateaued. But because you haven't tracked anything, we don't really know what's happening. That's the point of doing it. If you really want good results and you want quick results, you have to track your training and you have to track your food all the time. And the more you do it, the easier it gets. Oh, yes, I've got some questions. Yay. Okay. Should I eat carbs before a workout if I'm still looking to burn fat off my legs? This is a fantastic question. Thank you, Danielle. Your body will not burn fat while you train, ever. There's no such thing as a fat burning exercise except for walking at a 60% of your heart rate, which is incredibly slow, on a fasted stomach, and you have to have done it for longer than 45 minutes. And that's a really slow walk for a really long time to get the effect that you're after. So there's not really much point of it. So the answer is yes, you should always eat carbs before a workout because it's your energy expenditure over 24 hours paired with your food and macro intake that will make you drop body fat. There's no point, especially with all the weight training that most of you girls are doing, you need carbohydrate to train that hard. You cannot progress when you plateau or when you're feeling tired and sluggish. You guys are already on, or some of you, are on low calories. Your body needs that carbs. It will use them. And when they're done and you're sleeping and you've hit your protein and you've hit all your macros and you're in a calorie deficit, your body will lose fat. Everyone loses fat from a different area quicker than others. I know that my stomach is the last to go in my comp prep, and that's a part that a lot of people focus on. Some people lose a lot of weight on their upper body first. Some people lose a lot of weight on their lower body first. You can't spot it, but it will come off when you're consistent and you're training hard. And that also means increasing your weight every week so that your body is constantly stimulated, because it's very smart and it gets used to doing the same thing all the time. And if you want to build muscle and if you want to get stronger, you must challenge it and you must increase your weight every week, no matter what it is. Obviously, you know, for your upper body, it might only be 1 kilo increase. For your lower body, it might be 2 to 5. Some girls might go 5 to 10. Everyone's different. Any increase is a good increase, okay? Because it means you've gone heavier. Okay. How do you manage macros and alcohol consumption for special events? I've cut down so much drinking, but don't want to feel guilty if I go out every so often. I'm not a big drinker, but what I do is I find how many calories are in per glass. I add them all up, and then I'll split half of those calories for carbs and the other half for fat. So that means you're taking off macros from carbs and fat, and that's how I do it. And then the next day, which means like when you're pre-planning, because you know you're going to have a drink, just know that in the day you're going to be pretty stiff when it comes to your fat and carb intake. And when I have dinner and I'm going to drink, I generally just have protein and vegetables, just for a peace of mind, and so I don't feel so bloated, and it hits my macros better. Then the next day after I've drank, I generally go for a light walk just to kind of get me moving and get me sluggish. But if I've had a few drinks the night before, I can't really eat anything the next day. So again, then it's hard for me to kind of get back on track and eating my food, whether it's protein, fat, or carbs. I'm like, oh God, I can't even eat anything. So, but that's another way you can do it. What calorie range is okay to go over by if you've hit macros but exceed daily calorie count? Okay, that's a really good question. we're not focusing on calories, focusing on macros. If you just work towards your macros, let's rephrase this, shall I? The macros that I've given you obviously add up to a certain calorie amount, but some of the entries in MyFitnessPal are off in terms of some people will put in like how much they are in terms of when you digest them and how much they are after your calories burnt them off through digestion. Does that make sense? Or they haven't added up the fat, protein and carbohydrate properly for the overall calorie intake. So that's why when I always say just hit the macros, because I know I've had days where I've been 100% bang on the macros, but my calories are out. So I don't really focus on the calories. I focus on just getting the macro targets because they're the ones that are the most accurately entered in MyFitnessPal. But also when you go to choose something from MyFitnessPal, a lot of them now are getting green ticks, which means they've been verified. It means they are accurate. Always try and look for them. If you can't, then you're going to have to scroll through and look at every single post and see how many entries are filled out in terms of like the saturated fat, monosaturated fats, fiber, salt, sugars, blah, blah, blah. Because I went through someone on MyFitnessPal yesterday and a lot of the things she was using didn't have, not one single, it had the calories, but nothing, not where the macros were. So I was like, you can't use this because it doesn't give us the macros. And that's why I said, just focus on the macros. Some days you'll be really close to your intake, and other days you won't. But it is good to kind of, just stick to the same macro choices so that you're really accurate as well. Is there a time frame we should be eating meals every 2 hours, 1 hour before bed, and working out if it doesn't, and after working out, or doesn't matter so much? That's a really good question. There's no such thing as what's it called, the workout window, or the some bodybuilders are like, oh, the anabolic window. It's actually 24 hours post-training, so you've got 24 hours to eat all your food. There's just a better way of structuring it so that you don't leave after 5 hours and you're like, oh my God, I'm so hungry, I'm going to eat someone's arm off, and then you've got nothing there, and then you generally go for whatever's close to you because you're just so hungry you can't even think about it, and then you screw your macros up. That's me. So you want to eat when you're hungry. It's about being in tune with your body as well. If you're not hungry, just push it out for another 30 minutes, half an hour, an hour. If you are hungry, some days I'll get up and I'll have breakfast, and then I'll train. And by the time I've had breakfast or I've trained, it's been like 4 or 5 hours, and then I'll eat, and then maybe an hour later I'm hungry again, so I eat again. So there's no way to prolong. If you're hungry, you eat. It's just about how many macros you have to spread out throughout the day. So as you're on less food, you want to kind of push out your meals as much as possible. But if you're someone that's got a fair amount of food, then you can eat whenever you want. In terms of putting foods together, when I do your nutrition sheet, I do give you a guidelines of how I think you should set them out, only so it helps you to pre-plan your meals better. So at the end of the day, you haven't just got egg whites and spinach to eat. It's pretty crap. I love a big meal at night. My favorite meal is a huge meal at night before I go to bed because it just puts me to sleep. And sometimes I'll have that at 9 o'clock and I'll go to bed at 9:30. It does not matter. As I said before, it's your 24-hour. It's what happens in the 24 hours that you're eating and exercising that your body will drop fat or build muscle, all that kind of stuff. So it is really good to eat protein and carbs an hour before you train and get in another serving of protein and carbs post, pre and post training. That's just so that your body utilizes energy efficiently and you're onto recovery after you train. It's about, while you're in deficit, maintaining or building lean body mass. And what's the point of having your carbs at the back in the day when you've trained in the morning and you need that energy? You need that energy to train hard, and then after training you want to be recovered so they're not a zombie in the afternoon. So many times before I've got it wrong where I did not eat after I trained, and then 2 hours later I felt like I'd been hit by a bus because I was just so low on sugars, and I thought, what's the point of feeling like this? I think I've gone off a bit of a tangent. So no, there's no window, but I do highly recommend eating protein and carbs before training and after training to maximize fuel efficiency, training hard, plus recovery. When does water loading start pre-comp and dropping greens? Danielle Butcher, you are surrounded by old school bros and bodybuilders. We won't be water loading you at all, and we won't be dropping greens at all. You're going to be doing exactly what you're doing, drinking, around 4 liters, while you train. You'll be drinking cups of water while you're competing. There's no dehydration happening here, you lucky girl. Let me tell you, I have done comp prep every way imaginable. And I've definitely got it down pat now with flexible dieting. There's no water loading, no dehydration, no diuretics, no cutting out dairy, no cutting out whey protein powders. What else is there? No laxatives, nothing. You're going to do it the healthiest way possible, and you're not going to rebound. You're not going to get fat after. We're going to keep you lean and trim and toned and feeling good pre and post comp. Ominia, I think Nick deleted one of your questions. So if you want to rewrite it so I can say it, that'd be awesome. Just talking, just recapping over a conversation I had with one of my clients last Friday about competing. I know not all of you are competing. I know that some of you are thinking about it or have thought about it. And even if you're not competing, I know a lot of you just want to get into shape. Unfortunately, there's a lot of bro science or a lot of crap that's in the fitness industry that tell you that you need to be doing something or suffering to get lean, or suffering to comp prep, or that dieting is the devil, and that you should be missing out on life to get into good shape. This is all not true. Here at the Sports Model Project, we want you to enjoy the journey that you're on, no matter what journey you're on, no matter where you come from. That's why we use the methods we do in terms of flexible dieting. And the training is based off weight training and getting you really strong. You're always going to have people that think that their way is better than yours. I'm going to be honest, I think my way is the best, and I think my way is the best because I've never been so happy in my life, and I want everyone to share that and experience that. And I've done so many other dieting methods that I just rebounded or just went into a really negative cycle. But I really do feel like I found the right method here. So some of you girls are, a lot of you, when you girls are comp prepping, you're hanging out with a lot of bodybuilders or old school bodybuilders or comp prep coaches, and they'll ask you, why are you eating that? Oh, this is going to do this. And why have you done this yet? Oh, I can't believe you're eating that. Well, you can just smile and say, thank you so much. I'm going to look so good on stage. I'm really enjoying my oats. Because it's unfortunate that they're stuck in that way and they're not open to new methods that are based on science, not on gets you lean, but so does flexible dieting. And, what is really important to me is not just the comp prep for you girls, but also post-comp. You're going to get post-comp blues, and a lot of girls are on this restricted eating pattern just blow out, and that's the last thing I want to happen to any of you girls. So flexible dieting, one, actually helps you to have control of your own diet and have control of your own foods. It also helps teach you where your food comes from. It gives you flexibility. Flexibility if something comes up and you want to go see a friend and you're comp prepping. I never want to say no to someone. I've been in a stage where I had to go out to dinners and I couldn't eat anything and I just had to sit there. It was so boring. I didn't see anyone. And now I've been overseas twice and I'm leaner. I'm at a leaner stage than I've ever been before. And that is thanks to flexible dieting. It's just really important to stick to one method and not get too caught up in what everyone else is doing, no matter how bad they make you feel for eating that. Because let me tell you, I bet you they are wishing they were eating that. I actually had another WBFF pro, Mary, who actually came and did a posing class with me. And she's like, oh, I'm just struggling for my last comp prep. I can't seem to get this water off. And I said, oh, I do flexible dieting. Or she was saying she had to eat some, she's over her food that her coach has given her. And I said, oh, that's a shame. I do flexible dieting. And here she is now asking me how to teach her how to do flexible dieting because she just is so overeating the same boring food every single day and then having a cheat meal and then feeling crap out of a cheat meal because she binges. It's about sustainability. And it's about teaching you good, healthy ways of living and looking at yourself in a happy and healthy and loving manner. Yes. Any more questions? I'm unfortunately going to have to jump off pretty soon. I've got to train again and then see my dad. So if you have any questions, send them on through. If not, we're doing this again next Friday, and I promise I'll be so much better than today. And everyone can have their questions ready and I can answer them. So I'll just wait in case you guys have any more questions, and then I will send my love and goodbyes. All right, guys, I'm going to send my love. Thank you so much for everyone who jumped on today, and I'm so sorry that it was really unorganized. Now that we've got this set up and I know what to do, I will be way more ready for you all. If you do have any other questions, just make sure you jot them down so that next week when we jump back on, you've got them and I can cover them, and then everyone else can kind of hear what you've got to ask and say as well. Thank you so much, guys. I absolutely love coaching you all. You're an absolute inspiration to me. I'm not inspired by bodies. I'm inspired by people, and you guys really do inspire me every day. I love seeing you all just kill it, whether that's online or in-house. So lots of love to you all, and I will speak to you guys very soon.